Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Chapter 8 is titled Akshara Brahma Yoga. This chapter is essentially the 7 questions of Arjuna and Bhagavan's reply to that. The seeds of this chapter is found in the 7th chapter last 2 verses. The last 2 verses, Bhagavan has given some terms and that becomes the seed for Arjuna's question. So it starts with Arjuna asking Bhagavan what these 7 are. The first question is, Kim Tad Brahma? What is that Brahman? Is this Brahman the Sopadika or Nirupadika? Is it the reality endowed with the Upadis or is it the ultimate free of Upadis? So Bhagavan Shri Krishna's reply is Aksharam Brahma Paramam. That Brahman is a supreme which is well known in the Upanishads as Akshara. So it is the Nirupadika Brahman. The next question is Kim Adhyatmam? What is that which pertains to the self? Adhyatmam. So is it referring to some Dehadi, Sanghata, body, mind, etc.? Or is it referring to the higher? So Bhagavan's answer is Swabhavo Adhyatma Muchyate. By Swabhava is meant the Pratyagatman, the inner self, which is shown to be identical with the Supreme Brahman. That Pratyagatman, that inner self, is Adhyatma. Kim Karma is Arjuna's question. Bhagavan's reply is Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha Visargaha Karma Samnitaha. So what is karma? Karma is visarga of the nature of giving and sacrifice, whereby the entire beings are all nourished. Yajna, dana, these are all activities wherein one offers, one gives. So that which nourishes all beings, bhuta bhava, all beings, udbhava karaha, nourishes, that is karma. Then the next question is Adhibhutam cha kim proktam. What is that which you have mentioned as Adhibhuta? Is it referring to some of the objects? Adhibhuta is pertaining to the Bhuta, the realm of the beings. As what is it? So Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Adhibhutam ksharo bhavaha. The entire realm of the perishable is what is termed as Adhibhuta. Then the next question of Arjuna, the 5th question, Adidaivam kimuchyate. What is Adidaiva? And Bhagavan Shri Krishna's answer is Purushascha Adidaivata. So Adidaiva refers to the Purusha, what is referred to as Hiranyagarbha. So Adidaiva with reference to the deity. So is it in Agni, Vayu, Indra and all, or is it that deity which pervades all of them, which is the which all these or deities are only limbs? So Bhagavan Shri Krishna's answer is that Adidaiva is that Hiranyagarbha itself, also called as Sutratman. The deities are all expressions of that only. Now the next question is Adiyagnya Katam Kotra Dehesmin Madhusudana. So what is Adiyagnya? Kaha? Who is Adiyagnya? Dehesmin, in the body. Arjuna's question. Katam, how is that to be considered, worshipped? So Bhagavan Shri Krishna's answer is Adiyagnya Ahameva Atra Dehe Dehabratam Vara. So I am that Adiyagnya which is present in the body. When Bhagavan says I am, what he is referring to, the very famous, in the Shastras we have Yajno Vai Vishnu. So Adiyagnya is that for which the yajnas, the worship is done, and that which is the giver of all the results. So Bhagavan's answer is, I am that. Because Bhagavan himself is Vishnu only, is it not? So I am that. And I am seated in all the bodies. Because that Adiyajna, the giver of all the results of the yajnas, and to whom all the results, all the yajnas are being offered, that is the very Ishvara itself. And Ishvara is present in the hearts of all of us. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hriddeshe Arjuna tishtati. And how is that Adiyajna katham? How it is to be considered? You consider the Adiyajna as me only. That Bhagavan Vishnu, that Sri Krishna, who am I? That is that Adiyajna, and I am present in the hearts of all beings. So in this way, Bhagavan explains Adiyajna also. So all the 6 questions have been answered. The last one is Prayana Kalecha Katam Nyeyaha Asi Niyatatma Bihi. How are you to be known at the time of death? So this is taken up in great detail, and from the 5th verse up to the end of the chapter, you find the answer given to this verse. So Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Antakalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshaya. So Arjuna's question was, how is one to reach you at the time of death? So Bhagavan's answer is, at the end, if you think about me, Antakale, at the time of death, Mameva Smaran, you remember me, and leaving the body, one reaches me alone. So in this way, Bhagavan Shri Krishna answers all the 7 questions. Now, Bhagavan has said, at the end, one who remembers me reaches me. The general rule, Bhagavan states in the next verse, he says, Yam yam vapis smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Whatever you think at the end, your next embodiment, your next manifestation is going to be dependent upon that. Sattvic thoughts will lead to sattvic higher embodiments. Rajasic will lead to Rajasic Manushya embodiments. Tamasic will lead to lower embodiments. So at the end, what one thinks, that determines the next. So Bhagavan says, one who remembers me will reach me. Now, an important point to be noted here is that you do not have control over the last, or at the end, what thought you have, you do not have any control. But the last thought of the thinking that we have is dependent upon what we think always, because that will manifest automatically. And that is why Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Sada Tadbhava Bhavitaha. What you think always is what you will remember in the end. And therefore, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says in the next verse, verse number 7, very important verse, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. Therefore, make a habit, make your practice that all times you think about me. Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara. Now one may say, I have my work to do, duties to do. Then Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. Perform all your duties, but keep me as that altar of devotion. And when you perform all your duties with me as the altar of devotion, it is, even though you are doing your duties, even though you may be doing this or that, I am the object of worship, and therefore I have been remembered always. Now one may say, how is it possible that one can remember the Lord while doing duties? Right? Because when I am doing duties, I have to think about my duties. How can I remember the Lord? Remember, keep this point in your mind, that when we say remembering the Lord, it means, while working, it means understanding that I am doing everything for God. If that attitude is there, that is as good as remembering the Lord. For example, the mother is a mother thinking every time when he is doing something for the child, I am doing for the child, I am doing for the child. No. The mother knows it is a mother. She is a mother. And knowing that she is a mother, whatever she does is for the child. In the same way, knowing that everything I do is for Bhagavan, whatever I do, all the duties that I do is only for Bhagavan. Sometimes people say, Ma Manusmara Yudhyacha, fight is said. Yudhyacha is fight. See, Arjuna is told to fight because fighting is his duty as soldier. But for all of us, what this Yudhyacha refers to is doing our duties. So this way, Bhagavan Shri Krishna has answered, in fact, all the questions. Now the rest of the verses from verse number 8 onwards, he elaborates this remembrance of the Lord and finally how one reaches the Lord. In the 8th verse, from the 8th verse onward, he starts explaining what is the method of remembering the Lord. The 8th verse, he uses the word Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Chetasa Nanyagamina. So here he refers to how one should continuously practice the remembrance of the Lord. Now, in the 8th chapter, the Lord which is worshipped here is a Saguna Brahman. So more and more it becomes clear as one goes to the chapter. So when it is said Abhyasa Yoga, remembering the Lord, see the Lord, we worship the Lord, we worship Bhagavan Vishnu, we worship Lord Shiva, whatever way we worship, that becomes a Saguna form of worship. Now that Saguna Brahman, that Ishvara with those gunas, so naturally the question will come, how am I to worship the Ishvara? So Bhagavan gives in the 9th verse a series of pointers, the ways by which we can remember Bhagavan. Very famous verse, Kavim Purana Manushasitaram Anoraniyan Samanusmaredhyah Sarvasya Dhataharam Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. Here he gives 8 pointers of how we can worship Bhagavan. Kavim. Kavim means all-knower, Sarvajñam. Puranam. Puranam ancient, Sanatanam. Anushasitaram. Anushasitaram, the all-governing principle. The Lord is all-governing, is it not? He is Sarva Shaktiman. Anoraniyan. Anoraniyan, subtler than the subtlest. Why subtler than the subtlest? Bhagavan is the creator even of the subtle Akasha. He is subtler than even that. Sarvasya Dhataram, the all-nourisher. Dhataram, all-nourisher. And also the Karma Phala Dhata of all. Sarvasya Dhataram. Achintya Rupam, whose nature cannot be easily comprehended by the mind, who is beyond our human comprehension. Aditya Varnam. Aditya Varnam of the form or of the color, Varna, color form of Aditya. Meaning Aditya, the Surya, the sun is Swaprakasha. In the same way, Bhagavan is of the nature of knowledge, Swaprakasha. Tamasah Parastat, beyond ignorance. Beyond ignorance, the destroyer of ignorance also. In this way, through 8 ways, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, you meditate, you worship the Saguna Brahman. So, now when Bhagavan says he worships the Saguna Brahman, he also points out how at the end, at the Antakali, at the end, how one can remember the Lord and give up the body. That also he makes a mention. Prayana Kale Manasa Achalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva Bhruvor Madhye Pranam Aveshya Samyak Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam. That Divya Purusha, that Saguna Brahma, one reaches. How does one reach? Now, Prayana Kali, at the time of death. Manasa, your mind, without any distraction. Bhaktya Yuktaha, with full devotion. And with the Yoga Bala, the Abhyasa one has practiced, that Upasana one has done. And also here, it is also the context of having Upadesha from the teacher on how to do certain yogic practices by which Bhagavan says, Bhruvor Madhye Pranam Aveshya Samyak. So here the reference is through the practice of yoga. Certain practices are there. This you have to learn from the Guru. It is not something you can do it yourself. So one brings the mind to the heart. And then lifts that mind. Through the Sushumna Nadi, one lifts that mind to the Bhru Madhya. Bhru Madhya is what is here between the eyebrows, the Agni Chakra. One lifts the individual, the mind to that, and then through the Brahma Randhra, which is the orifice at the tip of the orifice at the tip of the head, the jiva exits. Then such a person reaches. We say such a person gains Krama Mukti. What is Krama Mukti? Such a person reaches that loka, a higher loka, the highest loka is called Brahma Loka. It is this very same Brahma Loka which is Vaikunta or Shiva Loka. Depending upon the seeker, this loka expresses itself. Suppose one is a Shiva Bhakta, this Brahma Loka or Satya Loka expresses as a Shiva Loka. Suppose one is a Vishnu Bhakta, then it expresses a Vaikunta. One reaches this Brahma Loka, and there at the end of the Kalpa, at the end of the creation, the Upadesha one receives from the deity whom one has worshipped, like Shiva or Vishnu, and then one gets liberated. One gets liberated, one is not born again. So this is called Krama Mukti. In Vedanta we study Jivan Mukti, well known, liberation while living. With knowledge one gets liberated. Now through this, Saguna Brahma Dhyana, Saguna Brahma Upasana, if that is the inclination, that is what one wants, one reaches this higher loka where one stays in the proximity of one's deity of worship. And because the worship has been performed in such a way, one reaches that, and the Upadesha also is, one receives and one gets liberated. Therefore, there is a step involved for the final liberation. In Jivan Mukti, with knowledge one gets liberated here itself. But you get the knowledge in Krama Mukti, in the higher loka, in that Brahma Loka one gets, and therefore there is one stage before the final liberation, and therefore that is called as Krama Mukti. Also, Bhagavan says how one can reach that Brahma Loka. He also gives an assistance through Omkara Upasana. Omkara is a very, very great support, and this Omkara can be meditated as Nirguna as well as Saguna. If Omkara is meditated through Nirguna, then one gets liberation. If Omkara is worshipped as a Saguna, one again gets this Brahmaloka Prapti. Right? The same thing Bhagavan Shri Krishna explains how with Omkara. This Omkara is that Aksharam Brahma. Omkara is, a single syllabled Brahman. Therefore, it is called Aksharam Brahma. Now, chanting that Omkara, one gives up the body, remembering the Lord. Which Lord? Kavim, Puranam, Anushasitaram. The verse number 9, you had that 8 pointers. One remembers the Lord, chanting the Omkara, which Omkara is nothing but that Saguna Brahma, which one worships, and then chanting that Om, one exits again through the same path, rising the mind, the prana and all, the jiva to the Agnya Chakra and exiting via the Brahmarandra. Then again one reaches this Brahma Loka. Right? Now one point to be noted here is that the Upasana which is mentioned here is termed Ahangrahopasana. What is Ahangrahopasana? One worships the Lord, of course, but Devo Bhutva Devam Archayet. One is not considering Bhagavan as something separate. Bhagavan is everything, and that everything includes me also. So in this way, worshipping Shiva, worshipping Vishnu as the whole which is inclusive of me. Some of you may be knowing in the famous Shiva Manasa Puja, Atma Tvam Girija Mati Sahachara. So they are all examples of Ahangrahopasana. Even if you see Dakshinamurti, Stotra, Bhuram Bhamsyada Lodilombaramahar Nato Himam Shuppuman. Here also all the 5 elements, the sun and the moon as well as the jiva, all of them are expression of Bhagavan only. So in this way, worshipping Bhagavan as everything inclusive of oneself, this is called Ahangrahopasana. One reaches the Brahma Loka and gets Krama Mukti. Ahangrahopasana is the method for Krama Mukti. Omkara Upasana also is Ahangrahopasana. In Omkara also, one worships the Lord and one worships the Lord as inclusive of the self. In the Mandukya Upanishad and all, you have a greater explanation of how this is performed, Omkara Upasana. One can refer to that and get more details. But remember one point, it is Ahangrahopasana which takes one to Brahmaloka and grants one Krama Mukti. Now one may say, oh, this is so difficult, all this, this yoga and all I have to learn and then, practice all those things and only then I will get this. Bhagavan says, there is an easy way. What is that? Ananya Cheta Satatam Yomam Smarati Nityashaha Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. If you have that Ananya devotion, single pointed devotion, So Ananya, single-pointed devotion. Smarati, Nityashaha, perennial devotion. Satatam, non-stopping devotion. So, single-pointed devotion, continuous devotion, and a ceaseless devotion, perennial devotion if one has. Tasya aham sulabha. That loving worship of the Lord itself will grant all those things. Not to be concerned. You don't have to do this or that yoga. Even this you take up, you will be able to attain me. In this way, Bhagavan gives the method to attain him through the upasana. So this chapter is essentially that of the upasana. And then he says, reaching me, one doesn't have to come again to this dukkhalayam, ashashvatam. Only reaching me. Otherwise, you will have to be born again and again. And then he says, you may reach any world, including Brahmaloka. But then, if, you may reach Brahmaloka also. But remember, even that is a perishable world. And that perishability of it, he speaks about giving a lifetime to even the creator who is seated in the Brahmaloka. Okay? To that creator also there is a particular time. He says, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyat Brahmano Vidhu. 1 day of the creator is equal to 1000 Chaturyugas. 1 day means what? That day time. 1 day time is equal to 1000 Chaturyugas. Right? 1 Chaturyuga is mentioned to be 4,320,000 years. So you multiply into 1000. That will give you 1 day. Meaning what? 1 night will be again equal to the same amount. And put them all together, you will get 1 full day. Multiply by that into 365, you will get 1 year. Multiply that by 100, you will get 100 years of the creator. Meaning what? Even the creator ends. And when the creator ends, at that time, the pralaya, prakritika pralaya happens. Then after that, again the whole creation starts and all beings come forth. Meaning what? You may reach Brahmaloka. But if you have not gained that liberation, the Kramamukti, again there will be a fall. Again you will have to come to samsara. Therefore, with devotion you reach me and you get liberated. For the highest is higher than even Maya. Paraha tasmatu bhavaha anyaha avyaktaha. That unmanifest, that supreme Akshara Brahman is higher than even that Maya. And that is what is also called as Akshara. Right? In this way, one who reaches that highest does not have to come back. But all others will have to come back. And therefore, Arjuna, reach me and get liberated. Purushaha sa parah partha, that supreme Purusha, that highest reality can be attained by bhakti, bhaktya labhyaha, ananya, single-pointed devotion. So this way, Bhagavan explains. Now, one point we need to understand, Swamiji, you just now said reaching Brahmaloka, one gets Kramamukti. Again you are saying even Brahmaloka also one reaches, one will return back. Remember, reaching Brahmaloka is possible not just through that, the upasana, saguna bhakti, what we said, by which one can get liberated, Kramamukti one can get, but even other methods are there to reach Brahmaloka. For example, Panchagni Vidya, one reaches Brahmaloka. So one may wonder, Swamiji, what is so great about reaching Brahmaloka? Brahmaloka is the highest joy possibly in the realm of this samsara you can attain. And therefore, by upasanas, by various other things, people do want to reach that Brahmaloka to enjoy the greatest happiness. Right? But even that is perishable. But if one reaches Brahmaloka through the upasana, what we just mentioned as ahangraha upasana, then for such a person, there is definitely liberation. So therefore, reaching Brahmaloka and returning will depend upon what upasana you have done and reached there. If you have done the ahangraha upasana, you will get Kramamukti and you will get liberated. But if you have done something else, and then you have reached there, again there will be a fall. In this way, Bhagavan Shri Krishna explains things in greater detail. Now, this is some clarity we need to keep in mind, because some people, they get confused. Reaching Brahmaloka, return, and sometimes reaching Brahmaloka, no return. You should see that different people reach Brahmaloka through different methods, and therefore return and no return, both of them are possible. Now, explaining the methodology of no return, Bhagavan Shri Krishna explains the marga. That marga, that method of reaching Brahmaloka, whereby there is no return, that is called as Shukla Marga or Devayana Marga or the Apunaravriti Marga. So many names are given. So Bhagavan Shri Krishna presents that. And how does he present that? He explains that as the various deities which take one to that realm of that Brahmaloka. And that he explains as Agnir Jyoti Rahas Shuklaha. He gives a list of deities which take one to Brahmaloka. Actually, there are 13 deities which take one to Brahmaloka. Bhagavan Shri Krishna makes a mention of 6, and that is to indicate that route, the Devayana Marga, by which one reaches the Brahmaloka. Now, one point to be noted here is that Devayana Marga is, all these, whether the Devayana Marga and the next one, what he is going to say, it is presided mostly by the deities of time. For example, Ahaha, a deity of day. Shuklaha, that is a deity of the Shukla Paksha. Shanvasa Uttarayanam, the 6 months of the northern solstice, as they say, when the sun goes to the northern. These are all deities pertaining to time. And since these are mostly presided by deities pertaining to time, other deities are also there. Agnihi, fire, Jyoti, Ahaha, all those various deities are there. Totally 13 deities are there. 6 Bhagavan Shri Krishna has mentioned. And therefore, he calls this path also as time. Yatra Kale. That Kala, time, is the Kala Abhimani Devata that we should keep in mind. Otherwise, one would think that, one who dies in the daytime, Ahaha is there. Shukla, Shukla Paksha, one dies. Then such a person reaches. No, it is not like that. The one who has done the upasanas for that person, these deities carry him to that Brahmaloka. The other path is also mentioned, which is the path of the Krishna. This is the Shukla Marga, and there is the Krishna Marga. Now, there again the deities are all mentioned. Bhagavan Shri Krishna mentions. Totally there are 7 deities. Bhagavan Shri Krishna makes a mention of the 4 deities. Dhumu, Ratrihi, Tata, Krishnaha, Shanmasa, Dakshinayanam. Now, these are all also referring to the various deities. But these deities do not take one to the Brahma Marga, the Brahmaloka. They do not belong to the Shukla Marga, but they belong to the Krishna Marga. Meaning, one may go with this performing various karmas and all, various actions, yagas and all. One may reach the higher loka, the Swarga Loka they may reach, but again they will have to come back. But reaching Brahma Loka through the Upasana, what we mentioned, Saguna Brahma Upasana, Ahangraha Upasana, there is no return. And therefore, a yogi should understand that these are the 2 paths. And knowing this, such a person, such a yogi, such a sadhaka will not get deluded at all. Such a sadhaka will choose the Shukla Marga through the Ahangraha Upasana, and he will reach the highest. And therefore, because he gets a Krama Mukti, therefore this is far better than all the results one may gain by the chanting of the Vedas, by performing yajnas, by various tapas, by giving various dana. These are all will give you finite results, which will bring you back to samsara. Whereas choosing the Saguna Brahma Upasana, one will reach the highest and will never be born again. And therefore, the result of this for this yogi is far higher than anything else. In this way, Bhagavan Shri Krishna concludes the 8th chapter. This 8th chapter is called Akshara Brahma Yoga. Reaching the Akshara Brahma. Which Akshara Brahma? The Supreme Brahman. How does one reach? Through Akshara Brahma. Which is this Akshara Brahma? The second Akshara Brahma, that is Omkara. Omkara is also Akshara Brahma, the single syllable Brahman. So using that as a means, one reaches that, one gains the Krama Mukti at Brahmaloka and finally reaches Akshara Brahman. So Akshara Brahma, the Supreme Brahman, through Krama Mukti. So this way, this chapter is titled Akshara Brahma Yoga. This chapter is slightly different, you see, from all the chapters. It's slightly mystical also, but this is a very, very unique chapter. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 ಹರಿ ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ಹರಿ ಓಂ.
Srimad Bhagavad Gītā, a unique scripture given by Lord Shri Krishna himself to Arjuna thousands of years ago. But its relevance is there even now.